where do we sit?
I think it doesn't matter whether the front.
Okay, well, near Rafi.
Koronivia family.
Take your favorite spot.
Koronivia family.
Yes. Are you all okay for the coffee, drinks, anything? Water. So thank you. I bring more cups.
Okay, we would like to start our session and we request that you take up your seats. A big request that if you're already in the room, kindly move to the front so that those who are coming are able to sit on the behind seats to avoid a lot of traffic to the front. A big request, we take the front seats unless you will be running out midway the session, but it's allowed. Okay, slightly delayed by 4 minutes. We want to start our session today on the Koronivia's future and the role of agroecology. I have 4 speakers in front of us that I'll be introducing as they take up their sessions. My name is Nancy Rapando. I'll be your moderator for the day. I am the Africa Food Future Leader for WWF and also supporting BioVision at country level and convening stakeholders on agroecology, a topic that is quite passionate to us. So today we want to discuss the role of agroecology as this COP discusses the future of Koronivia. We understand that agroecology is very critical in terms of increasing productivity, ensuring food and nutrition security, climate adaptation and climate mitigation. We are hoping that in this COP27, that agroecology will be considered as an important approach to transforming the global food systems towards a sustainable future. Agroecology has received a lot of attention of late, starting from the FAO Agroecology Coalition that was formed. We are now having a global coalition on agroecology after the UN Food System Summit. At continental level, we appreciate the role played by actors like AFSA in convening African stakeholders to speak agroecology out to our leaders. And we have a number of initiatives, even at country level. Like in Kenya, we already have an intersectoral forum for agroecology and agrobiodiversity. This actually should emphasize how agroecology is gaining a lot of traction. At WWF, the Africa Food Future Initiative that I lead has a major pillar on agroecology. So that really assures us that globally, continentally, nationwide, we are seeing a lot of actors agreeing that agroecology has a role in transforming our food systems. So today, as we gather here, we have a number of panelists, technical people, we have practitioners, we have our negotiators here, and we want to discuss the role that agroecology will play as we discuss the future of the Koronivia. We believe that a number of recommendations out of this meeting will not only influence the COP process, but will also influence the implementation of the COP decisions that will come out of the Koronivia discussion process. So I want to take this opportunity actually to invite our first speaker, who is Alex Awiti. Alex, I have to get your profile clear from my book.
Anything will do.
Sure. So Alex will be setting our scene, a person who is well known to a number of us in the field of agriculture and sustainability. Alex is the Senior Agroecology Policy and Advocacy Advisor for C4 ICRAF, and he leads the Agroecology Coalition work within the institution, and also supports global efforts to accelerate the transformation of food systems through the agroecology, through the TPP platform that he will talk about, and the Agroecology Coalition that he manages at the institution. Alex is well known to us, those of us who come from Kenya and the Africa continent, as a critical influencer under his work with the Aga Khan University. So we believe that, Alex, your role in this, the work you're gonna play in the Agroecology Coalition will really give more traction to agroecology work, both globally, continentally, and also at Kenya level as a country. So I want to invite you to set the scene on the importance of agroecology in the light of food security and climate change. Alex, you have 7 minutes, and I hope that you can deliver your message to the people. Yeah, thank you.
Good morning. It's good to see all of you, bright and early. I think by way of setting the scene, I just want to make it very clear to all of us in terms of a shared understanding of what it is that we're actually trying to respond to. And the importance of agroecology specifically in the future of the enhanced, now enhanced, I'm sure some of you have seen the more recent recommendations that came out yesterday, I think, and in the light of food security, climate change, and all the other overlapping global crises. So let me just say that agriculture affects everything, from greenhouse gas emissions to land degradation to carbon sequestration, biological diversity, water, pollination, nutrition, and livelihoods and human well-being. But more specifically, and I think this is where the focus of the conversation has to be with respect to our response and support to the Koronivia effort, is that 25 to 30% of greenhouse gas emissions, 70% of which come from land use and land degradation. Activities are related to agriculture. 33% of land degradation is directly attributed to agriculture. 60% of terrestrial biodiversity loss is attributed to agriculture. 78% of ocean and freshwater eutrophication directly attributed to agriculture, especially non-point pollution and runoff from agricultural operations. 70% of groundwater withdrawals are used in agriculture. Now, even though agricultural productivity has increased by almost tripled, what we still see is severe malnutrition. 3.1 billion people unable to afford healthy diets. 150 million children, especially in the part of the world that I come from, are stunted. These are numbers of 2020. 800 million people are estimated to be hungry as we speak today. And East Africa is facing the worst drought in 4 decades. We've seen a monsoon on steroids in Pakistan. Now, part of the other conversation that we need to have beyond just enhancing productivity in agriculture, and that is the broad space that agroecology plays a central role, is that 50% of the global workforce is employed in agriculture, a majority of whom are subsistence smallholder farmers. And this is important. And they're trapped in cycles of poverty that are enduring and even will persist in the future. They have no access to the socio-economic infrastructure that is developed in the globalized trajectory of prosperity. They have no political voice, and they work in unacceptable conditions, and especially because of the large value chains that we create in the structure of agriculture as it is practiced today. Now, the agro-industrial model of food production depends heavily on global trade, international supply chains that distribute the food that is vital and as well as the vital agricultural agrochemicals that support production. Now, and this is the crux of the matter in terms of the converging and overlapping crisis. The recent shocks of COVID-19, the conflict in Ukraine, exacerbated by climate change, and the worst drought, as I mentioned, in 40 years, and a monsoon on steroids, have laid bare the extraordinary fragility of our global food supply systems. The question is, can we just sit around and do nothing? I guess the answer is that we just can't sit and do nothing. What we've also seen is that fertilizer prices in the last year, between April 2020, in the last 2 years, April 2020 and March 2022, have increased by over 220%. Countries like Malawi, Kenya, Zambia don't have the foreign exchange capital now to import the fertilizers they need. We've seen Sri Lanka go belly up, not necessarily because the government was pivoting to moving to organic fertilizers, but they just didn't have the foreign exchange after a COVID pandemic and the collapse of tourism. Now, we all agree that food systems need transformation, but we're not in agreement on what that transformation and what those transition pathways look like. But I'm here to suggest that agroecological approaches present a very clear and compelling alternative to agro-industrial food systems, and are now recognized, increasingly recognized by multilateral food policy initiatives through the 13 principles of the agroecology that were defined by the high-level panel of experts in 2019. And more recently, we've seen the conversations around the United Nations Food System Summit. The recent IPCC report states that agroecology and other nature-based agricultural solutions can improve dietary diversity, support food security, enhance biodiversity and ecosystem services while providing multiple core benefits. And that's where everybody gets stuck. You know, is agriculture and operations to refine the efficiency and productivity of agricultural systems mitigation or adaptation efforts? Now, there is also evidence that agroecology, through resource efficiency, that is crop, livestock integration and diversification, and the use of fertility crops like legumes that enhance biological nitrogen fixation and organic matter management, can strengthen resilience of production systems and deliver social equity. And of course, agroecology is not presenting itself only as an agronomic intervention, but we've talked about all of the other problems with social equity, the value chains, the absence of inclusion, especially of women and vulnerable communities and pastoral communities. So my sense is that even though the Koronivia work and the recommendations that come out of the enhanced processes right now do not mention agroecology as such, but the essence of the principles of agroecology underpin the current recommendations of the enhanced Koronivia joint work on agriculture, specifically on soil carbon sequestration, soil health and fertility under grasslands and cropland, improved nutrients under the use of prudential management of manure, water management, and more importantly, there are specific recommendations that came out of the HLPE of 2019 in the 5 recommendations, and some of the more specific recommendations of the enhanced KJWA, such as capacity building, access to finance, technology, development and transfer, with a view enhancing adaptive capacity and resilience of agricultural systems, are actually inside the recommendations of the CFS work. So I think we're at a point where we should not be so much concerned about the labels of things, but we should be more interested in the principles that are embodied in some of these global conversations. I know agroecology will get everybody's hacks up. It is not about eliminating fertilizer. It's about looking at responsible transition and transformation pathways. And in many instances, you'll find that in the ramp up of agroecological intensification through ecological intensification and building the ecological foundations of agricultural production systems, farmers themselves will make the choices. When they have sufficient biomass to put back into the systems, they will make the determination of how much fertilizer they need to use. It is not my job as a scientist to tell farmers what to do. Farmers are smart. They've been at this business for thousands of years. And we need to be mindful about that. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Alex. I know the passion that Alex has when it comes to sustainable agriculture. And I think you mentioned very critical issues, that farmers are very critical in making a decision based on what is available for them, and that for the Koronivia, we need not to push for the word, but to ensure that the principles are well integrated, the elements are well recognized in the implementation of the recommendations. Thank you so much for that. I want to call upon Rafik. Yes, Rafik, I know we've had a lot of discussion around agroecology, but as a negotiator, Rafik is one of the negotiators. He is the representative of the AGN on agriculture. He is the leader of the agriculture group of negotiators. So he becomes a very critical person in commenting about this topic on the role of agroecology in Koronivia's future. Just to talk about who he is, Rafik is an engineer, and he's the coordinator of the Climate Change Committee, Ministry of Agriculture, Water Resources and Fisheries, and Rafik is from Tunisia. But as I said, in the AGN, he is the leader of our agriculture negotiators. So thank you so much, Rafik, and let's listen from you on what you think about agroecology, giving us country and continental perspectives. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, colleagues. Okay. Good morning, colleagues, and
you take it a bit closer to you.
I appreciate the invitation from WWF and these two women's. WWF, thank you for the invitation. Why you? No, like that I can't. So I will speak frankly speaking with you, and our position as AGN. This is our position. Our position as AGN on agroecology. But first, I will try to give you some information about agroecology in Africa. I captured some ideas from AFSA, and thank you for AFSA for the work done in September workshop in Addis Ababa, held in Addis Ababa. As you know, the impact of climate change seriously disrupts economic activities in both developed and developing countries. As you know, we thought that climate change will affect our children. Now it affects us. So there is no way. We need. That's why we need together as Koronivia family. I have a colleague here to go straight away and to get this decision for the COP at this COP. This is globally recognized threat humanity is facing. International collaboration, awareness of adequate solutions, use in new technologies, knowledge transfer, and democratization of science are essential to face the main challenges and hope for a better future. Today, it's necessary to enforce adaptation to climate change, because on one hand, it cannot be avoided. In the other hand, anticipatory adaptation is more effective and less costly. The integration of concepts and analytical methodologies concerning adaptation to climate change into real-world dynamics is crucial for ensuring increasing well-being of local population and safeguarding the ecological balance and functionality of the water bodies, soil and forest policy makers, inviting them to acknowledge the agroecology approach. It's our, but I will try to, but not only, as well as to put into value the opportunities for improved rural development generated by the process.
The sustainable management of natural resources is key to increase resilience to climate change, protect biodiversity and the environment, and contribute to global efforts to reduce poverty, hunger, and malnutrition. The implementation of agroecology approach will alleviate the pressure that agri-food production places on natural ecosystems. On the other hand, there is a need for a common understanding of what agroecology is, how it differs from other concepts, and how to mainstream it into policies in a sustainable manner. Essentially for Africa, with the 5 different sub-regions, each divided in several agroecology zones, because agroecological practices are very context-specific. Agroecological practices should have clear benefits for farmers. Otherwise, they will not be applied nor scaled up. Many concepts as agroecology, climate-smart agriculture, agroforestry, nexus, could be one of the most promising approach to achieve the mitigation and adaptation potentials of agriculture system to climate change and to strengthen their resilience. As Asian, in negotiation process, we try to avoid as much as possible to mention these concepts, because we believe that it's up to countries, according to their national circumstances, to choose which concept to reduce their vulnerability and increase their resilience or to mitigate. For Africa, we should ensure that scaling up agroecology practices do not lead to stagnation of rural productivity or negatively affecting food security. There is an urgent need to increase agricultural productivity, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, in a sustainable and economically viable manner. Colleagues, Africa is the world's second largest landmass, with a total land area of approximately 30 million square kilometers and holds 60% of the world's arable land. African land cover consists of open ecosystems, as my colleague said, including savanna, grasslands, arid zones, and deserts, with the remainder consisting of forest and woodlands, mountains ecosystem, freshwater and wetlands. In terms of land use, it consists of cropland, forest land, grassland, human settlement, wetlands, and other land. Land in Africa is not only an economic and environmental asset, but also socio-cultural resource, vital for poverty reduction, health, and achieving sustainable development. African societies have deep cultural ties to their ancestral land. Many communities in Africa are dependent on diverse ecosystems, such as grassland, savanna, as I said before. They generate multiple ecosystems goods and services of importance for local to global scale. They are also at home of flora and fauna that is critical in promoting tourism. For example, wildlife tourism contributes a third of tourism revenue and millions of jobs. Africa's contribution to historical GHG emission remains low. You know that we approximately 4% only, but has a potential for climate change adaptation, mitigation, and co-benefits that could improve livelihoods and biodiversity conservation, among others. Thus, direct human dependence on ecosystem service in Africa is high. Therefore, leveraging this ecosystem services to support climate resilience on the continent is crucial. This can be done by protecting and restoring the ecosystems, practicing conservation agriculture, sustainable land management, and integrate catchment management. Agriculture systems in Africa are climate dependent and mostly rain-fed. The sector is highly vulnerable to climate shocks, and hence extreme climate events could make it more challenging, especially in the arid and semi-arid zones. It can therefore be shown that support for the rain-fed agriculture is the main agriculture system in Africa. In the perspective of sustainable development based on the economic viability of farmers, will induce a certain number of important changes. Professionalization of farmers, improvement of agrarian structure, agroecological transition, better management of natural resources, co-management with local authorities. What is needed for Africa, or the way forward? To identify and evaluate the most suitable agroecological strategies for various farming systems in different agroecological zones in Africa. Delivery method to identify the best combination of agroecological practice for different farming systems. Identifying barriers to and drivers of socio-economic and ecological, its wide implementation and the conditions, means and tools to support agroecological transition and individual, territorial and system levels, and including perspective related to assess to local and international market. Develop indicators. Support farmers, advisory, service, and actors in value chain in implementing agroecological practice. Identify approach in methods to enhance the demand for food production. Now, how to enhance climate action on agriculture dealing with KGWA under the UNFCCC process. First is policy, regulatory, and economic instruments. Second, consolidation of issues related to agriculture and the UNFCCC process. Africa reiterates the importance of consolidation issues related to agriculture and the UNFCCC process by establishing entity under the convention as to enhance climate action and on land through domestic action and international cooperation. Strengthening climate information system, early warning system, and contingency planning. Adaptation and loss and damage to operationalize GGA as set out in Decision 7/CMA3. Equity and just transition. Enhance regional cooperation and inter-agency, climate finance, technology and innovation, equity and I said it. So as a conclusion, colleagues, KGWA will succeed if it can create conditions to mobilize resources for implementation at country level and the assistance to farmers to adopt better technology and practice, taking into account the diversity of agro ecosystems. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rafik. And as I always say, Rafik in Kiswahili means a friend, and you've been a friend in the negotiation team, and thanks for giving us a lot of information on what needs to be done, especially taking agroecology to the next level. And I think, Alex, from the research perspective, our work is already cut out on how do we evaluate what practices are best for the different agroecological zones. And so I believe this is a great message that you take to the CGIAR team, who are even developing the agroecology initiative on what needs to be done. And Manei, from a farmer perspective, I think it's very critical that we understand that farmers will choose what they want based on the resources that are available. But we need to continuously develop agriculture extension packages that are relevant to the different farmers we are dealing with. Thank you, Rafik, and also for the message on what is happening in the UNFCCC process and what Africa is asking for. I want to call upon, that name is difficult, so. So Manei, actually you're the next presenter, and I hope your presentation is up very soon. Manei is the head of programs at Pelham, Kenya, and she will be talking about the importance of agroecology in the future of Koronivia in response to climate change adaptation and resilience among smallholder farmers and pastoralists in Kenya. Manei is an agriculturalist who has worked with for over 10 years with farming communities in Kenya, and she's also a leadership fellow under the Africa Climate Leadership Program. So Manei, thank you. Kindly give us some perspective from the farmer, from farm and community level. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, it's okay.
Thank you so much. As I have been introduced, I'm Manei Nanyu from Pelham, Kenya. Pelham, Kenya is participatory ecological land use management, and it's a network of civil society organization promoting agroecological principles and practices among the smallholder farmers in Kenya. Pelham, Kenya is part of the larger network, or the regional network of Pelham Association, operating in 12 African countries. So I'm going to give you a perspective of agroecology among the smallholder farmers in Kenya. So agroecology as a useful tool for development, agroecological approaches mainly aim at transforming food and agriculture system by providing holistic and long-term solutions as expected by the 2030 agenda. The core principles of which my other speakers have talked about, like diversity, those are the core principles of agroecology, efficient use of natural resources, nutrient recycling, natural regulation, and synergy, which enable the climate adaptation and increases the resilience of smallholder farmers. In sub-Saharan Africa, smallholder farmers face multiple challenges in sustaining a viable food system and are very vulnerable to the climate shock. So there's need of adapting agroecology as one of the adaptation measures for climate change. This therefore make agroecology as a winner approach for all the smallholder farmers. So one of the practices, the principles of diversification, diversification enhances diversification of production so that if one enterprises fail, the other one can be able to sustain the farmers. It also diversifies sources of income for the farmers. As you can see there, the farmer is keeping the rabbit, is keeping the chicken, there is honey production, and you can see even the tea farmers are now integrating other food crops within the tea farms. So what some of the practices of agroecology, you have to think about the soil. So for the soil, it's about the health of the soil so that you can be able to produce well. So for you to build the soil diversity, you reduce the cost of production by utilizing available farm materials. So we have various ways of increasing soil health, mainly through manure, and we have farm waste manure whereby you can use green materials to create the manure. Then the vermicompost where you use the red wriggler's worm to decompose the manure. And from the vermicompost you can, oh, sorry, is it me? Oh, okay. From the vermicompost, you can also get the vermi-tea, which is the liquid now you'll get from there, and you can use it as a top foliar for your crop. Farmyard manure, whereby you can use the animal waste, the poultry waste, and use it for as a fertilizer for your farm. Then the bokashi manure, whereby you can use the rice husk, the coffee husk, and other ingredients such as baking yeast, and be able to ferment the manure. So also in terms of how you prepare your beds, it's also very critical, especially in dry areas. So some of the ways that farmers are doing it, we have zai pits. I'm sure some of you have seen or have heard about zai pits, where there are square holes, 60 by 30 centimeters, and you dig the hole, then you put the organic matter, you put also the compost, then you can plant your maize there, 5 to 9 crops, depending on the size of the hole. This one helps in nutrient retention, water retention, and also reduces the competition with the weeds. Then we have the sunken beds, which help in retaining the soil moisture, as well as making the soil cooler, and it's very useful in dry areas. And you can see in the first photo where the maize which are grown in the zai pits have grown very well. Then there is also the issue of seed saving, which we are promoting among our farmers. The farmers can be able to harvest, and they know how to select the best seed for the next crop. And then they, sorry? So I don't know what happened. But I think I can continue as they continue. So basically it's about saving the indigenous seeds. I continue. Okay. So it's saving the seed, and we call them indigenous seed system. And basically in Kenya we don't have a regulatory framework at the moment to regulate it, but we are working towards developing it. And these seeds, we've realized that they are resilient to climate change, and they are adapted to the local environment of the farmers, other than the hybrid seeds that are being introduced and they fail. But this one can be used, and the farmers are also exchanging within themselves. Other practices like pasture conservation is done in among the pastoralists, whereby we train our farmers to even harvest the standing hay and store it, then can be used during dry periods. So that one reduces the impact it has on pastoralists, especially during the dry periods. We also encourage paddocking, whereby a small land is put aside so that it can be used during the dry periods. I think it is back. So those are the photos of seed saving. You can see the way they hang them in the seed banks. Those are the local seed banks. Then we recently had a first seed indigenous and food fair festival in Kenya, whereby we were trying to promote and showcase the diversity of seeds among our farmers, as well as diversity of indigenous foods. And those are the local seeds that are there. We also promote integrated land and water management, and you can see the water terraces, which helps in conserving the water. We also promote urban farming. Those are the vertical gardens, which now improves food and nutrition security, especially to those people who don't have big land. From one vertical garden, they can be able to sustain a household. Then we have a food forest, whereby it encourages planting of different crops that have different values, like for timber, for medicine, for spices, and it is left to regenerate itself, so it's purely organic. Then we also promote integrated pest management, whereby it's a system of manipulating the pest population while taking consideration the effect of the environment. And we have different ways of doing IPM. Sorry. Okay. Sorry, I'm almost there. So you have biological predators, whereby we use those small insects to be able to eat on the other insects that are the pests. Then we have botanical methods, whereby we use we extract active ingredients from plants which have pesticide properties, like pyrethrum. Then these are the challenges and opportunities of our smallholder farmers practicing agroecology. So the challenges, we always be told that agroecology cannot feed the world. So that has been the narrative, and that is one of the challenges that our governments are not supporting, saying it cannot feed. But I think it's just lack of evidence. Lack of a policy regulatory framework in Kenya, and we are happy that through BioVision Foundation, they are supporting us to work on an agroecology strategy. We also have poor access to organic inputs, which has hampered some farmers. Then the climate change effect, the normal drought, market, sometimes the access and the prices for organic products also lead to problems in getting the markets, and the very expensive certification systems. The opportunity, having the strategy will give us a favorable policy environment for the farmers. There's also global interest in shifting food systems, and this one will now give us an opportunity to thrive. The pandemics or the diseases, when COVID came, everyone was, oh, we need to eat organic. So I think that was an opportunity for agroecology to drive. We're also training our farmers to make biofertilizers and their own biopesticides. And we are also encouraging local inexpensive certification system, such as the participatory guarantee system. Sorry. My last slide is recommendation to the future of the Koronivia. It's important to consider agroecology as one of the approaches for climate action. Food systems should consider a holistic approach in facilitating implementation of mitigation and adaptation measures. Government should also provide regulatory frameworks for smallholder farmers who are practicing agroecology, and climate action plans should be gender responsive for climate justice to be achieved. Thank you. Sorry for taking long.
Okay, thank you very much, Mane. And yes, we're going to have a question and answer session after the presenters have done it. So, yes, that's much appreciated. We're going to have, immediately our presenters give their presentation, then we're going to have a session where we're going to interact with them. So just kindly give us some time to finish up on that, and then we'll get back to that. Yes. And I think it is necessary that the participants really want to really have sessions where they are talking to the negotiators on agroecology, which is really amazing. And I want to request our presenters that we take slightly less time so that we give more time to the participants in the plenary. So our next presenter is Valerie Dimax. I hope I've called it. Okay. I hope I've called it well, but the way you've laughed, I don't think I've done it well. Valerie is from the Ministry of Agriculture, France, and she's a policy officer at the French Ministry of Agriculture, who is following up the negotiations on agriculture in the UNFCCC, and she's been doing this since COP27. So Valerie, you welcome. Let's get the France perspective. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yes, so Valérie Dernaud, but never mind. So we can go to next slide. I will be quick because Alex spoiled the whole of my presentation, in fact. Alors, so how do you do that? Voilà. So in France, as you may know, we are really interested in agroecology, and it's been inserted in the rural code by the law. And it was before the 10 elements of the FAO, so we tried to define a bit agroecology, mostly by saying that it brings economic, social, environmental, and sanitary performance, and that it contributes to mitigation and adaptation. And then I will skip the rest up. And so, for example, we have a plan on fertilization and protein autonomy. Yes, thank you. It will be better like this. Which focuses on, for example, having really more legumes, pulses, etc. I try to be really quick. Then the 10 elements, you know them by heart, but I thought it was useful to have them again, because it will be very useful for the rest of the presentation to have them in mind. Then just for the record, to say that IPCC speaks about agroecology in ARC 6 volume 3 about mitigation, volume 2 about adaptation, and more in a more prominent way in the special report on land. This report is really focusing on sustainable land management, and IPCC defines it with several examples, and agroecology is the first example. So it's really something quite important to have in mind. Then IPBES also talks about agroecology. So it was just for the record. So now, Koronivia, joint work on agriculture. Before speaking about the future, I also thought, like Alex, it's good to speak about what we have now. And we have had workshops and then reports, and then we considered the reports, and we adopted some SB conclusions. And we have many stuff, many content that is really compatible with agroecology. So without sure reading everything, as Alex gave already some example. For example, taking in a holistic and inclusive manner soil carbon, soil health and soil fertility. It's quite profound. It's really more important than saying just carbon stocks. It leads us to some types of projects and not other types of projects. Then another example, for example, in the first draft, we had like the best use of fertilizer or something like that. But in what we adopted finally, we have optimal use of nutrient, including organic fertilizer and enhanced manure management. It's really different. So it's quite interesting. Then, for example, we have a focus on animal health. It's also really important. Projects that focus on animal health are quite compatible with agroecology most of the time. We have also something about things on pasture and grassland, and usually agroecology makes link between livestock and cultures to have a recycling of nutrients. So that's also very important. We have also so focus on systemic approaches. So it's really important. It means water, air quality, pesticide, climate, biodiversity, everything in the at the same level and dealt with in a coherent way. We have also a focus on long-term investment because, as you know, agroforestry, for example, it takes time to have results. So we need to take this time. Then we have, without repeating, something also about participatory, inclusive manner, local circumstances. That is really linked to the part of agroecology. That's not only agronomy, as said Alex, also the social part and co-creation with farmers. Taking into account the local conditions, there is no one size fits all, etc. Then there is this whole sentence that was put there to be a definition of agroecology, but without the word because the word was not acceptable by some parties. So it's a sentence that speaks about the multiple benefits for society, water quality, biodiversity, soil organic matter, diversification, recycling, and efficiency. It was meant to be a small definition on agroecology. Then we have a focus on inclusivity with farmers, pastoralists, indigenous people, local and vulnerable communities, women and youth. That's also very compatible with agroecology. And then about ecosystems and ecosystem services. To be a bit short, to let time for the debate. So now we have spoken about the reporting back, only about Article 2 of the non-paper. That means what we have already agreed upon. Now, when we speak about the future, we have two steps. First step is implementing this stuff that we have just talked about. That means, for example, ask, invite, recommend. We don't know yet, but the bodies, for example, the financial entities to take that into account, also to parties to take that into account, etc. There are many ways to implement that. That's the first step of the future of Koronivia. And then there is the real future of Koronivia. and we will have to speak about the global objectives we have. And apparently, it can be easy to have an agreement, of course, focusing on food security, implementation, increasing coordination of the work on agriculture under UNFCCC. That can be maybe easy ones. And then we need also to speak about what to do, how to do that. And that's a conversation we have not opened yet. But I think given all what we have already done in Koronivia, comparing with before Koronivia, it was not at all the same story. Maybe we can be hopeful. Voilà. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Valerie. Just hand over to our next presenter. And that's amazing to see how the elements are getting integrated within the Koronivia text. Because of time and we have a hard stop at 9:30, I want to bring on board our youth representative. Oluwato Sino Gunsola is the contact person of the Yungo Agriculture Working Group. So we have a hard stop and we just request you to take slightly less time to allow our participants also engage with the panel. So please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll be talking about the youth perspectives on agroecology in Koronivia joint work. You will all agree with me that we have more mouths to feed as global population increases from 7 billion to 9 billion by 2050. Today, soil resources keeps decreasing at a fast pace, and water scarcity is becoming endemic across the world. This has been exacerbated by the continued changes in our climate, hence pushing our current food systems beyond its capacity. The question here is, how do we sustainably grow food to feed our growing population within the planetary boundaries? Agroecology, interestingly, provides a unique answer to this. Young people have the largest population on the planet, and the number of smallholder farmers globally is in excess of 500 million, which provides the bulk of the food consumed globally. Case studies of young people who are practicing agroecology. Youths have started embracing the principles of agroecology in getting safe and nutritious food to the consumers in their communities. I will give you a case study of Alexis, who is also in the audience, a university student who is working with farmers who are producing using agroecology principle to facilitate the supply of freshly harvested fruits and vegetables to consumers in Switzerland. Another case study is Opeyemi, who grows fruits and vegetables using agroecology principles to meet the food demands in his community in Nigeria. And likely also we have youths across Africa who are doing the same thing as Opeyemi. Here, we see that agroecology extends across both global south and north and provides opportunities to deliver safe and nutritious food that are grown within planetary boundaries. Looking forward, like the forward-thinking champions that I've mentioned, Alexis and Opeyemi, we have the chance to do more in seizing this opportunity that agroecology provides to deliver on sustainable consumption and production of food. To deliver on SDGs 2, 12, and 13, there is need for us to include agroecology in the future of Koronivia joint work on agriculture as a matter of urgency for us to deliver impact on agri-food systems transformation for our generation and the future generation. I call on everyone to stand together for implementation and deliver action on food at global, regional, national, and subnational level for people, planet, and prosperity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, our youth representative, and actually showcasing that youths are engaged and it is also possible to feed the world through food that has been produced through the agroecological approaches. So we have a hard stop at 9:30, but I still want, we had a participant who has left who really wanted to engage. So maybe just to ask from the team, do you have someone with a question to the... Okay, wow. So I'll give the two ladies first, and then if I get time, then I give someone else. We have a hard stop, so that is why I have to do this.
Good morning, my name is Salome Wonde. I work for Center for Minority Rights Development. My question or a comment is on the fact that the values chain starts from the production level, and weather forecasting is a very important thing at the production level. And when we talk about the use of technology, there's need to integrate indigenous traditional knowledge into the modern weather forecasting system. That is something that we are working on right now. We have a tool on that. And I'm thinking that as we move on with the agroecology discussion, it's important to bring in the issue of integrating indigenous traditional knowledge into weather forecasting. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Let's have the lady, and she's the last one. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for taking my question. My name is Jenna Tesdal. I'm the director of the Youth Network YPARD, and we're working with Yungo. And something that I wanted to contemplate with you all, obviously you won't have time to answer the question, is if in our finance mechanisms, if loans are really sufficient to put forward and push forward the work that we really need on agroecology that also mitigates climate change and adaptation. And something I would like to think about is how we can then advocate for those type of financing mechanisms, for example, in the FAST initiative that's coming forward through the Egyptian presidency, or then the Food and Agriculture Initiative, which will probably come forward from the UAE. So that's something that I would love to discuss with you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the ladies who got the chance. We have a hard stop and we have to stop right now. I want to say that our panelists will be available for any question and answer session as we walk out because we have to leave the session for another team coming on. So I want to thank all of you for being part of this, and a round of applause to our panelists who are timely and were here to deliver all the information and giving us a hope on how we can continuously implement agroecological approaches. Thank you so much. Thank you, great panelists, and thank you those who came to be with us. So, oh, thank you, Nancy.
Okay, super. Yes, please. Learn more about your work. They can talk about ours. Let's see. Let me just.
Nancy, well done.
I needed to bring all of this back.
Thank you for finishing up tonight. We really have only short breaks and we have to prep for the next one. Thank you.